The champagne glass slipped from Jasmine's fingers as her husband Robert stood up at her own 40th birthday party, his arm wrapped around a pregnant woman she had never seen before. Two small children clung to the woman's sides, and Robert's smile was the kind that made Jasmine's blood freeze in her veins. "Everyone, I want you to meet my real family," Robert announced to the room full of Jasmine's friends, family, and colleagues. "This is Angela, and these are our kids, Tommy and Sarah. Angela's carrying our third baby." The restaurant fell silent except for the soft jazz music that suddenly seemed too loud. Jasmine felt like she was watching a movie of someone else's life. This could not be happening. Not at her birthday party. Not in front of everyone she cared about. Angela smiled nervously and waved. She was young, maybe 25, with blonde hair and bright blue eyes. Everything Jasmine was not. The children, who looked about 4 and 6, had Robert's dark hair and his same crooked smile. "Robert." Jasmine's voice came out as a whisper, but in the dead silence of the room, everyone heard it. "Oh, Jasmine." Robert looked at her like he had forgotten she was there. "We need to talk later." This party was the perfect time to make the announcement. "Everyone important is here." Jasmine's sister Lisa stood up so fast her chair fell over. "What are you talking about, Robert? This is Jasmine's birthday party." "Well, yes, but it seemed efficient to handle both things at once." Robert shrugged like he was discussing the weather. "Angela and I have been together for 7 years. The kids need stability, and with the new baby coming, we decided it was time to make everything official." 7 years. 7 years while he had been married to Jasmine for 12. While they had been trying to have children of their own. While she had blamed herself for their fertility problems and spent thousands on treatments. While she had supported his struggling business and worked double shifts at the hospital to keep them afloat. The room erupted. Jasmine's mother started crying. Her best friend Nicole was shouting at Robert, calling him names that would make a sailor blush. Her co-workers from the hospital stood frozen, unsure whether to leave or stay. Lisa was demanding answers, her voice getting higher with each question. But Jasmine just sat there, staring at the children who had Robert's eyes. 7 years old would make Tommy born right after she and Robert had renewed their wedding vows in Hawaii. 6 years old would make Sarah conceive during the same month Jasmine had her first miscarriage. "I know this is a shock," Robert continued, raising his voice over the chaos. "But Angela and I are getting married next month. I've already filed for divorce, Jasmine. You'll get the papers next week." "You filed for divorce without telling her?" Lisa's voice cracked. "At her birthday party?" "It seemed like the most efficient way to handle things," Robert repeated. "Efficient?" Like their 12-year marriage was a business merger gone wrong. Jasmine finally found her voice. It came out steady and calm, which surprised everyone, including herself. "How long have you been planning this?" "Planning what?" "This. The announcement. The divorce. The public humiliation." She stood up slowly, her legs shaking but her voice growing stronger. "How long have you been planning to destroy my life in front of everyone I care about?" Robert had the nerve to look annoyed. "Don't be dramatic, Jasmine. Life happens. People change. I fell in love. 7 years ago. While you were married to me." "Yes, well? While I was working 60-hour weeks to pay for your business loans." "That's not." "While I was taking fertility drugs that made me sick so we could have the children you told me you wanted desperately." Robert's face flushed red. "This isn't the place for this conversation." "No." Jasmine looked around the room. "You made it the place when you decided to announce your other family at my birthday party. In front of my friends. In front of my mother." She turned to Angela, who had been standing quietly through the whole exchange. "Did you know he was married?" Angela nodded, not meeting Jasmine's eyes. "He said you two were separated. That you knew about us. We live in the same house. We share the same bed. We went to marriage counseling last month because he said he wanted to work on our communication." Jasmine's voice was still calm, but everyone could hear the steel underneath it. "Did that sound separated to you?" Angela's face went white. She looked at Robert, then back at Jasmine. "He said. He lied to you too." Jasmine picked up her purse from the back of her chair. "Just like he lied to me for 7 years. Where are you going?" Robert demanded. "Home. To our house. That I pay the mortgage on." Jasmine looked him in the eye for the first time since his announcement. "Enjoy your party, Robert. And enjoy explaining to Angela why you need her to start paying rent next week, because as of tomorrow morning, you won't have access to any of my accounts." She walked toward the door, her heels clicking on the restaurant floor. The room was still silent except for someone's quiet crying. She could feel everyone watching her, waiting to see if she would break down or start screaming or collapse. Instead, she stopped at the door and turned back to face the room. "Thank you all for coming to celebrate my birthday. I'm sorry you had to witness this, but I'm glad you did. Now you all know what kind of man Robert really is." She looked directly at Robert. "And Robert? You might want to ask Angela if she knows about the business account in the Cayman Islands. Or the second mortgage you took out on our house last year. Or the fact that your struggling business has been turning a profit for 3 years, but somehow we're still broke." The last thing she saw before walking out was the look of confusion and growing anger on Angela's face as she turned to stare at Robert. Jasmine made it to her car before the shaking started. She sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes, gripping the steering wheel and breathing deeply. People kept coming out of the restaurant, some trying to approach her car, others just staring. She started the engine and drove home to the house she had bought before she even met Robert. The house he had moved into and slowly taken over until she felt like a guest in her own home. The house that was still in her name only, thank God. She walked through the front door and looked around at 12 years of shared life. Wedding photos on the mantle. His favorite chair in front of the TV. His coffee mug in the sink from that morning when he had kissed her forehead and told her he loved her before leaving for work. 7 years. He had been living a double life for more than half their marriage. The children looked healthy and happy. Well cared for. Which meant he had been spending money on them while telling her they couldn't afford to go on vacation or fix the leaky roof. Jasmine walked upstairs to their bedroom and opened Robert's closet. In the back, behind his winter coats, she found a box she had never seen before. Inside were photos of Angela and the children. Birthday cards signed "Love, Daddy." Report cards and school programs and all the little mementos of a father's love. The same love he had denied her when she begged him to keep trying for children. She sat on their bed, surrounded by evidence of his other life, and felt something cold settle in her chest. It wasn't heartbreak. It wasn't even anger, not yet. It was something much more dangerous. It was clarity. Robert thought he was so smart. He thought he could discard her like an old piece of furniture, humiliate her in public, and walk away with everything. He had underestimated her completely. He had no idea who he was dealing with. Jasmine had spent 12 years as a trauma nurse, thinking quickly under pressure and making life-or-death decisions. She had managed their finances, handled their taxes, and basically run their entire life while he played at being a businessman. She knew where every account was, every password, every asset they owned together. She knew his social security number, his mother's maiden name, and all the little details that made up a person's financial life. More importantly, she knew how to be patient, how to plan, how to wait for exactly the right moment to act. Robert wanted a divorce? He would get one. But it would be on her terms, not his. Jasmine picked up her phone and called her sister. "Lisa? It's me. I need you to come over. And bring your laptop. We have work to do. Are you okay?" That was. "I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. I'm thinking clearly for the first time in years." Jasmine looked at herself in the bedroom mirror. Same face, same hair, but something fundamental had changed. "Robert thinks he just threw me away like garbage. He has no idea what he just unleashed." Lisa arrived 30 minutes later with Nicole close behind. They found Jasmine sitting at the kitchen table with a yellow legal pad, making lists in her neat handwriting. "Honey, what are you doing?" Nicole sat down beside her, studying the columns of numbers and notes. "Inventory," Jasmine said without looking up. "Assets, debts, accounts, properties. Everything we own together and everything that's mine alone." "Jasmine, you're scaring me." Lisa poured 3 glasses of wine and set them on the table. "You seem too calm." "I am calm. For the first time in months." Jasmine finally looked up. "Do you know what our biggest fight was about last week?" Both women shook their heads. "Money. He said we needed to cut back on groceries because business was slow. He wanted me to take on extra shifts at the hospital." Jasmine laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Meanwhile, he's been supporting 2 children and a pregnant girlfriend for 7 years. "That bastard," Nicole muttered. "It gets worse." Jasmine flipped to a new page in her notepad. "Remember when I wanted to buy that little vacation house in the mountains 2 years ago? He said we couldn't afford it. Guess what property is listed under his name in the county records?" Lisa's wine glass stopped halfway to her mouth. "No. A 4-bedroom house in Asheville. Mountain views. Bought 18 months ago." Jasmine's voice was still steady, still calm. "Want to guess who's been living there?" "Angela and the kids," Nicole breathed. "While I've been working double shifts to pay our mortgage. While he's been complaining that we can't afford to fix the air conditioning." Jasmine made another note on her pad. The house is in his name only, but guess where the down payment came from? Your joint account, Lisa said. $40,000. Last February. He told me it was for new equipment for his business. Jasmine turned the page. Business that, by the way, has been depositing checks into an account I didn't know existed. Nicole leaned back in her chair. How did you find all this out so fast? Online banking. Property records. Credit reports. It's amazing what you can learn when you have someone's personal information and you're authorized on their accounts. Jasmine's smile was sharp. Robert always let me handle the finances because he said numbers bored him. He had no idea I was learning about every aspect of our financial life. What are you going to do? Lisa asked quietly. I'm going to destroy him. The words came out matter of fact, like she was discussing what to make for dinner. Legally, financially, socially. He wants to throw away 12 years of marriage and humiliate me in public? Fine. But he's going to pay for it. Jasmine? No. Jasmine's voice cut through Lisa's concern. Don't tell me to be the bigger person. Don't tell me to think about forgiveness. He didn't just cheat on me. He built an entire secret life with my money while lying to my face every single day. She stood up and started pacing. Do you know what the worst part is? I blamed myself. For years I thought I wasn't good enough. I thought there was something wrong with me because we couldn't have children. I took fertility drugs that made me sick. I went to therapy to figure out why I wasn't making him happy. You couldn't have known? He already had children. He was coming home from tucking his kids into bed and listening to me cry about wanting a baby. Jasmine's calm facade cracked for the first time. He held me while I cried about our failed IVF attempts, knowing he had a pregnant girlfriend at home. Nicole reached for her hand, but Jasmine pulled away. I'm done being the victim. I'm done being the understanding wife. I'm done making excuses for him. She sat back down and picked up her pen. He declared war tonight. He just doesn't know it yet. What's the plan? Lisa asked. Jasmine flipped to a fresh page. First, I secure everything that's legally mine. Bank accounts, investments, this house. Everything goes into accounts he can't touch. Can you do that? Most of our assets are in my name because his credit was terrible when we got married. The house, the car, the investment accounts, all mine. Jasmine made notes as she talked. He has access as my spouse, but I can revoke that access. What about his business? That's where it gets interesting. Jasmine's smile was cold. His business has 3 major contracts right now, all with companies where I know people. The hospital network, the medical supply company, and the real estate firm that handles half the properties in the city. Nicole caught on first. You're going to tank his business. I'm going to let his business tank itself. I'm just going to make sure the right people know about his character. Jasmine made another note. Dr. Peterson at the hospital is very concerned about the ethical standards of their vendors, especially when it comes to honesty and family values. Jasmine, that's smart. It's smart. Jasmine looked at her sister. Robert built his reputation on being the devoted family man. The guy who left work early for his wife's doctor appointments. The one who talked about how much he wanted children. She laughed bitterly. Well, now everyone knows the truth. He does have children. Just not with me. Lisa was quiet for a long moment. You're really going to do this? I'm really going to do this. Jasmine met her sister's eyes. Are you going to help me, or are you going to try to talk me out of it? What do you need? Research. Documentation. Witnesses. Jasmine turned to Nicole. You work in social media marketing. How fast can news spread in our social circle? Depends on the news. Video of tonight's announcement. I'm sure someone was recording the party. Nicole pulled out her phone. Already checked. Mrs. Chin was doing Facebook Live when Robert made his speech. It's been shared 47 times in the last hour. Perfect. Jasmine made another note. What about professional networks? LinkedIn industry groups? Give me 12 hours and everyone in the medical and business community will know what happened. Nicole's fingers were already flying over her phone screen. The advantage of being humiliated in front of witnesses is that you don't have to prove it happened. Good. Jasmine looked at both women. I need you to understand something. I'm not doing this out of spite. I'm not doing this because I'm hurt, though I am. I'm doing this because Robert thinks he can treat people like garbage and walk away clean. She gestured around the kitchen. He lived in my house, spent my money, built his business with my support, and then threw me away like trash when he found something better. That's not heartbreak. That's theft. What about Angela? Lisa asked. She's pregnant. She has kids. Angela is welcome to him. But she's going to get the real Robert, not the fantasy version he sold her. Jasmine's expression softened slightly. Did you see her face when I mentioned the Cayman Islands account? She had no idea. You think he's been lying to her too? I know he has. Robert doesn't just cheat. He lies about everything to everyone all the time. It's who he is. Jasmine closed her notepad. Angela's about to find out that her Prince Charming is actually a broke, lying con man with a destroyed reputation. Nicole looked up from her phone. The video already has over 200 shares. The comments are, not kind to Robert. Show me. Nicole turned her phone around. The comments were exactly what Jasmine expected. Outrage on her behalf, disgust at Robert's behavior, and a lot of very colorful language describing what people thought of men who blindsided their wives at birthday parties. It's working already, Lisa observed. This is just the beginning. Jasmine stood up and walked to the window. Robert's car was pulling into the driveway. He's home. Do you want us to stay? No. I can handle Robert. Jasmine's voice was steady again. Go home. Tomorrow we start phase 2. Which is? Documentation. I'm going to spend the weekend going through every financial record, every email, every piece of evidence of his double life. Jasmine heard Robert's key in the front door. By Monday morning, I'm going to know exactly how much he stole from me and exactly how to get it back. The front door opened and closed. Robert's footsteps echoed in the hallway. Jasmine? We need to talk. She turned to her sister and best friend. Remember, you know nothing about my plans. As far as anyone knows, I'm just a devastated wife trying to pick up the pieces. Lisa and Nicole gathered their things and headed for the back door. As they left, Jasmine heard Nicole whisper, "Remind me never to get on her bad side." Jasmine smiled for the first time all evening. They had no idea what her bad side looked like yet. But Robert was about to find out. Robert walked into the kitchen like he owned the place, which Jasmine realized he had probably always assumed he did. His tie was loosened and he looked tired but not guilty. Not ashamed. Just tired, like the evening had been a minor inconvenience. That could have gone better, he said, opening the refrigerator and grabbing a beer. Jasmine stared at him. Could have gone better? The announcement. You made it more dramatic than it needed to be. He popped open the beer and leaned against the counter. Angela was upset on the drive home. Angela was upset. Jasmine repeated the words slowly. Your pregnant girlfriend was upset because your wife didn't react well to finding out about your 7-year affair and secret children at her own birthday party. Robert sighed like she was being unreasonable. I know you're hurt, Jasmine. But we haven't been happy for years. You know that. I thought we were working on it. We were in counseling. Because you insisted on it. I was just going through the motions. He took a long drink of beer. Look, I didn't plan for it to happen like this. But Angela's pregnant and the kids were asking questions about why Daddy couldn't live with them all the time. So you decided to destroy our marriage in public. I decided to stop living a lie. Robert's voice had an edge now. We both knew this marriage was over. I just had the courage to do something about it. Jasmine felt that cold clarity settle over her again. You're right. This marriage is over. Robert looked surprised. He had clearly expected more of a fight. Good. I'm glad you're being reasonable. I am being reasonable. More reasonable than you know. Jasmine picked up her notepad from the table. I spent the evening doing some math. Want to see what I found? What kind of math? The kind that shows exactly how much money you've been stealing from our joint accounts to support your other family. She flipped open the notepad. $40,000 for the house down payment. $15,000 last year for what you said was business equipment but was actually a minivan for Angela. $8,000 for family vacations you told me we couldn't afford. Robert's face went pale. That's not stealing. It's our money. Our money that I earned while you were playing house with another woman. Jasmine turned the page. But that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is the business account in the Cayman Islands that you've been hiding from me and the IRS. How did you, Robert caught himself, know about it? The same way I know about the second mortgage you took on this house without telling me. The same way I know about the credit cards you opened in both our names. Jasmine's voice was getting colder. The same way I know that your struggling business has actually been very profitable, but somehow we're always broke. Robert set down his beer hard enough to splash foam on the counter. You had no right to go through my private financial information. Private? Jasmine laughed. We're married, Robert. There is no private when it comes to finances. Especially when you've been committing tax fraud with money I helped earn. It's not tax fraud. Unreported income in offshore accounts? What would you call it? Jasmine stood up and walked closer to him. Or maybe we should ask the IRS what they call it. You wouldn't. Wouldn't I? Jasmine met his eyes. You just humiliated me in front of everyone I care about. You've been stealing from me for years. You've been lying to me about everything from children to money to basic fidelity. What exactly do you think I wouldn't do? Robert's jaw clenched. Fine. What do you want? I want you to pack your things and get out of my house. Our house. My house. Check the deed, Robert. It was mine before we married, and it stayed in my name after. Jasmine's smile was razor sharp. Along with the car you drive, the investment accounts, and most of our other assets. You were so bad with money when we met that everything had to go in my name to get approved. You can't just kick me out. Actually, I can. But I'm giving you until Sunday night to get your things and go. After that, you'll be trespassing. Robert's face was getting red. This is ridiculous. We need to divide everything fairly. Fairly? Jasmine's voice rose for the first time. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been not lying to me for 7 years. Fair would have been not spending my money on your secret family. Fair would have been not making me think I was the problem in our marriage when you already had everything you claimed to want with someone else. She walked to the kitchen drawer and pulled out a manila folder. But if you want to talk about fair division of assets, let's talk about it. What's that? Everything I found tonight. Bank statements, property records, business filings, credit reports. Jasmine dropped the folder on the counter between them. Everything that shows how much you've stolen from me and hidden from the government. Robert reached for the folder, but Jasmine pulled it back. Not yet. First, we're going to discuss terms. What terms? You're going to sign whatever divorce papers I put in front of you. You're going to give up any claim to this house, my retirement accounts, my car, and anything else that was mine before we married or that I purchased with my earnings. That's everything we own. Funny how that works out when one person in the marriage actually works for a living. Jasmine's voice was deadly calm. In exchange, I won't report the tax fraud to the IRS or the business fraud to your clients. Business fraud. Using our joint credit to fund business expenses while reporting losses. Claiming business deductions on personal expenses for your other family. Shall I go on? Robert was quiet for a long moment. What about support? Alimony? Jasmine almost laughed. You want me to pay you alimony? After what you've done. I have children to support now. 3 of them. You've had children to support for 7 years. That's not my problem. Jasmine picked up the folder. But if you want to discuss child support, we should probably talk about the fact that you've been using marital assets to support children from an affair without your spouse's knowledge. I wonder what a family court judge would think about that. Angela doesn't know about the offshore account, Robert said quietly. I figured. Just like she doesn't know that you've been lying to her about being separated from me. Jasmine tilted her head. What else doesn't she know, Robert? Nothing. Everything else is. True? Like how you told her we were separated. Like how you told me you were working late when you were actually tucking your kids into bed. Jasmine shook her head. You don't know how to tell the truth. It's pathological. She walked toward the kitchen door, then turned back. You have until Sunday to decide. Sign my divorce terms and walk away clean, or fight me and watch me destroy every aspect of your life. You can't destroy my business. I have contracts. With companies that care about integrity and family values. How long do you think those contracts will last when they see the video of you introducing your affair children at your wife's birthday party? Robert's face went white. What video? The one that's been shared over 300 times on social media in the last 2 hours. The one where you call Angela and her children your real family, while your actual wife sits there listening. Jasmine opened the kitchen door. Good night, Robert. I'll be sleeping in the guest room until you leave. Jasmine, wait. She turned back. What if I fight you? What if I take this to court and make you prove all these accusations? Jasmine smiled and Robert took a step back from the coldness in it. Then I'll prove them. In open court. With the media present. And when I'm done, you won't just lose everything you have now. You'll lose everything you ever hoped to have. She paused. Including Angela. What do you mean? I mean, Angela seems like a nice woman who got involved with a man who lied to her about everything. When she finds out the truth about your finances, your character, and your criminal activity, how long do you think she'll stick around? Robert opened his mouth to argue, but Jasmine continued. Especially when she realizes that the house she's living in and the comfortable life you've provided are all built on stolen money and tax fraud. When she realizes that she's about to be tied to a man who's going to be investigated by the IRS and possibly charged with financial crimes. She let that sink in for a moment. So choose wisely, Robert. Take my generous offer and disappear into your new life with your reputation mostly intact. Or fight me and lose everything including the family you betrayed me for. Jasmine walked out of the kitchen, leaving Robert standing alone with his beer and the growing realization that he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. As she climbed the stairs to the guest room, she heard him on the phone. "Angela? We need to talk." Jasmine woke up Saturday morning to the sound of Robert's voice carrying up from the kitchen. He was on the phone, and from the tone it wasn't going well. "I can explain everything." "No, she's lying about some of it." "Angela, please just listen." Jasmine smiled as she got dressed. Phase 1 was working perfectly. She made coffee and settled at her laptop in the living room, listening to Robert's increasingly desperate phone conversation. By the time he hung up, she had already transferred their joint savings into an account with only her name on it. "What are you doing?" Robert appeared in the doorway looking like he hadn't slept. "Banking. Protecting my assets before you can drain them to fund your legal defense." Jasmine didn't look up from her screen. "How did your conversation with Angela go?" "She's upset. She thinks I lied to her about our financial situation." "You did lie to her about your financial situation. And everything else." Jasmine opened another browser tab. "But don't worry. I'm sure she'll understand once you explain how you've been committing tax fraud to afford that nice house she's living in." "I haven't been committing tax fraud. Robert, you have unreported income in an offshore account that you've been using to fund personal expenses while claiming business losses to avoid taxes. What would you call that?" Robert slumped into his chair. "It's complicated. It's theft. Theft from me, theft from the government, theft from every honest taxpayer who actually reports their income." Jasmine finally looked at him. "The question is, what are you going to do about it?" "What do you mean? Are you going to sign my divorce agreement and walk away, or are you going to force me to involve the authorities?" Robert was quiet for a long moment. "What if I agree to pay you back? Everything I took from our accounts, I'll pay it back." "With what money? The unreported income you've been hiding?" Jasmine shook her head. "Besides, this isn't about money anymore, Robert. This is about consequences." "What consequences?" "You get everything you want. The house, the accounts, a clean divorce. I get back what was already mine. That's not consequences, that's basic justice." Jasmine closed her laptop and looked at him directly. "Consequences would be you facing the reality of what you've done." "I made mistakes." "You built an entire parallel life with stolen money while lying to everyone involved." "That's not a mistake, Robert. That's a calculated betrayal that went on for 7 years. Jasmine stood up and walked to the window. "Do you know what I realized last night? I've been making excuses for you our entire marriage. When you couldn't keep a job, I said you were just finding your path. When your business struggled, I said you were learning. When we had money problems, I worked extra shifts instead of asking where our money was really going." She turned back to face him. "I enabled you by being understanding. By being supportive. By believing your lies and covering for your failures. So this is your revenge? Destroying my life. This is me stopping the pattern. No more excuses. No more covering for you. No more pretending that your choices don't have consequences." Jasmine's voice was steady and calm. "You want to be with Angela? Be with her. But be honest about who you are and what you've done. Angela doesn't need to know about the tax fraud? About the stolen money? About the fact that everything she thinks she knows about you is a lie." Jasmine laughed. "She deserves to know exactly what kind of man she's about to marry." Robert's phone buzzed with a text message. He looked at it and his face went gray. "Problem?" Jasmine asked. "Angela wants to see the business books. She wants to understand where the money for the house came from." "Smart woman. What are you going to tell her?" "The truth, I guess. That would be a first." Jasmine picked up her laptop again. "You have until tomorrow night to decide about the divorce, Robert. After that, I start making phone calls." "What kind of phone calls?" "The IRS. Your business clients. The licensing board for your industry." Jasmine's fingers flew over the keyboard. "Maybe the local news station. They love stories about cheating husbands who commit tax fraud." Robert's phone rang. The caller ID showed Angela's name. "Answer it," Jasmine said. "Tell her the truth for once in your life." Robert looked at the phone like it was a snake. "Answer it, Robert, or I will." He picked up the phone with shaking hands. "Hello." Jasmine could hear Angela's voice through the speaker, tight with anger and fear. Robert, I've been looking at our expenses. The house payment, the car payments, the kids' school tuition. How have we been affording all this? I told you the business has been doing well. I called your office. I talked to your partner Mike. He says the business has been losing money for 2 years. Jasmine watched Robert's face crumble as his lies finally caught up with him. Angela, I can explain. Can you explain the credit cards in your wife's name that you've been using? Can you explain why you told me you were separated when you're clearly still married and living together? Robert looked at Jasmine with panic in his eyes. She just shrugged and continued typing. Angela, please just let me come over and we can talk. No, I don't want you here right now. The kids are asking questions and I don't know what to tell them. Angela's voice was breaking. I don't know what's true anymore. The line went dead. Robert stared at his phone. She hung up on me. Can you blame her? Jasmine didn't look up from her laptop. She just found out that the man she's been with for 7 years, the father of her children, has been lying to her about everything. Not everything. Really? Name one thing you told her that was completely true. Robert opened his mouth, then closed it again. That's what I thought. Jasmine made a note on her legal pad. You know what the saddest part is? You could have had a good life with Angela if you'd been honest from the start. But you're incapable of honesty. I love her. You love the idea of her. You love having someone who doesn't know who you really are. Jasmine finally looked at him. But love requires honesty, Robert. It requires respect. It requires actually caring about the other person's well-being. I do care about her well-being. You put her in a house that was purchased with stolen money. You involved her in tax fraud without her knowledge. You're about to make her the wife of a man under federal investigation. Jasmine's voice was sharp. If that's how you show you care, I'd hate to see what you do to people you don't like. Robert's phone buzzed again. This time it was a text message from his business partner Mike. What now? Jasmine asked, seeing his expression. Mike says 3 of our clients want to meet on Monday. They saw the video from last night. Robert's voice was hollow. They want to discuss the future of our contracts. The consequences are starting already. Jasmine made another note. What are you going to tell them? I don't know. You could try the truth. It's worth a shot. Robert glared at her. You're enjoying this. I'm not enjoying anything about this situation, Robert. I'm devastated that my marriage is over. I'm hurt that you betrayed me so completely. I'm angry that you humiliated me in public. Jasmine's voice was steady, but there was steel underneath it. But I'm also relieved that I finally know the truth. She closed her laptop and stood up. I'm going out for a few hours. When I come back, I want you to have made a decision. Sign my divorce terms or prepare for war. Where are you going? To see a lawyer. And a private investigator. And maybe the IRS field office. Jasmine picked up her purse. It's Saturday, but I'm sure I can find someone willing to work overtime for the right case. Jasmine, wait. Robert stood up quickly. What if we could work this out? Go to counseling, try to rebuild? With Angela? In your secret house? Using stolen money? Jasmine's laugh was bitter. Robert, we can't rebuild a marriage that was built on lies from the beginning. What about forgiveness? What about working through problems together? Forgiveness is for mistakes, Robert. This wasn't a mistake. This was a deliberate choice you made every single day for 7 years. Jasmine walked toward the door. Every time you kissed me goodbye in the morning and went to your other family. Every time you held me while I cried about not having children, knowing you already had them. Every time you told me we couldn't afford something while you were buying it for Angela. She turned back to face him. Those weren't mistakes. They were choices. And now you get to live with the consequences of those choices. Jasmine walked out, leaving Robert alone in the house that had never really been his home. Her first stop was the office building downtown where her friend Sarah worked as a private investigator. Even on Saturday, Sarah was at her desk working on a case. Jasmine, I saw the video. Girl, I am so sorry. Sarah hugged her tightly. But also, I have never been prouder of how you handled that. You were ice cold. I need your help, Sarah. Anything. What do you need? Everything you can find on Robert's business dealings, his offshore accounts, and his relationship with Angela. Jasmine sat down across from Sarah's desk. I need evidence that will hold up in court. You're really going after him. He declared war first. I'm just finishing it. Jasmine's smile was sharp. How long will it take? Give me a week. Maybe less if his records are as messy as you say they are. Sarah pulled out a contract. What's your budget for this? Whatever it takes. I want everything. Everything? Financial records, communication records, evidence of fraud, evidence of the affair timeline, anything that shows he's been lying to me, to Angela, or to the government. Jasmine signed the contract without reading it. I want his entire life exposed. Sarah whistled low. Remind me never to cross you. Robert forgot who he was dealing with. I've been managing crisis situations and life-or-death decisions for 20 years. He thinks he can manipulate me like he manipulates everyone else. Jasmine stood up. He's about to learn how wrong he is. Her next stop was the law office of Patricia Chin, the most ruthless divorce attorney in the city. Patricia's reputation was legendary. She didn't just win cases, she destroyed opponents. Mrs. Johnson. Patricia shook Jasmine's hand. I saw the video of your husband's announcement. I'm very sorry. Don't be sorry. Be angry. Jasmine sat down. I want you to take Robert for everything he's worth. I can certainly try, but he's been committing tax fraud for years. He's been stealing from our joint accounts to support his other family. He owns property that was purchased with marital assets without my knowledge. Jasmine opened her folder of documents. I don't want to try. I want to destroy him. Patricia looked through the documents, her eyebrows rising higher with each page. This is extensive. And that's just what I found in one night. I'm having a private investigator dig deeper. Jasmine leaned forward. I want a divorce settlement that leaves him with nothing. And I want him prosecuted for the fraud. Criminal prosecution is a separate matter. Then I'll handle that separately. But for the divorce, I want him to sign away all claims to anything that was mine before the marriage or purchased with my income. Jasmine's voice was calm and businesslike. In exchange, I won't pursue him for the money he stole. That's actually quite generous considering the circumstances. I'm not being generous. I'm being strategic. Jasmine stood up. Robert thinks he can manipulate his way out of this like he manipulates everything else. I want him to sign those papers thinking he's getting a good deal. And then he finds out what the consequences of 7 years of lies really look like. Jasmine's smile was ice cold. Draw up the papers, Patricia. I want them ready by Sunday night. By the time Jasmine got home, Robert's car was gone. There was a note on the kitchen table. Gone to talk to Angela. Back tonight. We need to discuss this like adults. Jasmine crumpled up the note and threw it away. Robert still thought this was a negotiation. He still thought he could charm his way out of the consequences of his choices. He was about to learn how wrong he was. She spent the rest of the day gathering every piece of documentation she could find. Bank statements, credit card bills, business records, emails, text messages, anything that showed the pattern of lies and theft that had defined their marriage. By Sunday morning, she had enough evidence to put Robert in prison. But prison wasn't her goal. Destruction was. Sunday morning brought 3 phone calls that changed everything. The first was from Robert's business partner, Mike. Jasmine, I'm so sorry about what happened at your party. I had no idea about any of this. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. I need to ask you something, and please know I'm not trying to cause more problems. Mike's voice was careful. Did you know that Robert has been using the business account for personal expenses? Jasmine sat up straighter. What kind of personal expenses? House payments, car payments, children's school tuition. Things that aren't business related. Mike paused. I've been reviewing our books, and there are some irregularities I'm concerned about. How concerned? Concerned enough that I think we need to involve an accountant. Maybe a lawyer. Mike sighed. Jasmine, I think Robert has been embezzling from the business. The second call came an hour later from Dr. Peterson at the hospital. Jasmine, I wanted to reach out personally after seeing what happened at your birthday party. Dr. Peterson, you didn't need to. Actually, I did. Robert's company handles several contracts for our hospital network, and after what I saw last night, I have concerns about their business practices. Jasmine's heart began to race. What kind of concerns? If Robert has been lying to his wife about fundamental aspects of their marriage and finances, what else might he be lying about? Invoice accuracy, service delivery, compliance with our ethical standards. Dr. Peterson's voice was firm. We're going to be conducting a full audit of all his contracts. I understand. I also wanted you to know that if you need any support during this difficult time off, employee assistance resources, anything, it's available to you. The third call came just as Jasmine was processing the implications of the first 2. Mrs. Johnson? This is Detective Williams with the Financial Crimes Unit. We received a tip about possible tax fraud involving your husband's business. Jasmine's blood ran cold. A tip from whom? I can't share that information, but we'd like to speak with you about your knowledge of your husband's financial activities. Of course. When would you like to meet? How about this afternoon? I understand you may have documentation that could be relevant to our investigation. After hanging up, Jasmine sat in her kitchen trying to process what was happening. In the span of 2 hours, Robert's business partner had discovered embezzlement, his biggest client was initiating an audit, and the police were investigating him for tax fraud. Her phone rang again. This time it was Angela. Mrs. Johnson? This is Angela Morrison. I think we need to talk. Hello, Angela. I've been doing some research since Friday night, and I think Robert has been lying to both of us. Angela's voice was shaky but determined. Would you be willing to meet with me? Jasmine hesitated. This could be a trap or it could be an opportunity. Where would you like to meet? Somewhere public. The coffee shop on Main Street. I'll be there in an hour. Jasmine found Angela sitting in a corner booth, looking exhausted and stressed. The confident young woman from the birthday party was gone, replaced by someone who looked like she hadn't slept in days. Thank you for coming, Angela said as Jasmine sat down. Thank you for calling. They sat in awkward silence for a moment before Angela spoke again. I need to know the truth about Robert. All of it. What has he told you? That you two have been separated for 2 years. That you knew about us from the beginning. That you were okay with the arrangement because your marriage was over anyway. Angela's voice was bitter. But after Friday night, I know that's not true. None of that is true. I figured. Angela pulled out a folder. I've been going through our finances this weekend. The house we live in, the cars we drive, the kids' private school tuition. None of it adds up with what Robert tells me he makes. Jasmine looked at the papers Angela had spread on the table. Bank statements, credit card bills, mortgage documents. How much do you know about his business? He says it's been struggling for years. That's why we can't get married officially. He can't afford to support 2 households. Angela laughed bitterly. But somehow we live better than most people I know. The business has been profitable for 3 years, Jasmine said quietly. I've seen the real books. Angela's face went white. He lied about that too? Angela, I need you to understand something. Robert has been lying to both of us about everything. Our marriage wasn't over. We weren't separated. I didn't know about you or the children. Then how? He's been stealing from our joint accounts to support your household. He took out a second mortgage on my house without telling me. He has unreported income in offshore accounts. Jasmine leaned forward. You and your children have been living off stolen money. Angela started crying. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I believe you. But Angela, there's more you need to know. More? The police are investigating him for tax fraud. His business partner discovered he's been embezzling. His biggest client is auditing all his contracts. Jasmine's voice was gentle but firm. Robert's world is about to collapse, and anyone tied to him is going to get hurt. Angela wiped her eyes. What should I do? Protect yourself and your children. Get your own lawyer. Document everything you can about your relationship and his financial support. And distance yourself from him as much as possible. But I'm pregnant. I have 2 kids. I can't just. Angela, listen to me carefully. Robert is a liar and a thief. He's been using you just like he used me. When the authorities come after him, they're going to look at everyone in his life. Angela was quiet for a long moment. You could have let me find all this out the hard way. Why are you helping me? Because you're a victim too. You didn't choose to get involved with a married man who was committing fraud. You thought you were in love with someone who was honest with you. What happens now? Now you decide whether you want to go down with him or save yourself and your children. Angela gathered up her papers. I know what I have to do. What's that? I'm going to tell the police everything I know about Robert's finances. Everything he's told me, everything I've seen, every dollar he's spent on us. Angela's voice was stronger now. If he's been lying to me this whole time, he deserves whatever happens to him. That's not going to be easy. Neither was finding out that my entire life has been built on lies. Angela stood up. Mrs. Johnson? Call me Jasmine. Jasmine, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for believing his lies about you. I'm sorry for letting him hurt you. And I'm sorry for what happened at your birthday party. You don't need to apologize, Angela. You were as much a victim as I was. But I'm not going to be a victim anymore. After Angela left, Jasmine sat in the coffee shop thinking about how quickly everything was unraveling for Robert. His business partner had turned against him. His biggest client was investigating him. The police were building a case. And now the mother of his children was ready to testify against him. All because he thought he could humiliate her at her own birthday party and walk away clean. Her phone buzzed with a text from Robert. "Where are you? We need to talk about the divorce papers." Jasmine smiled as she typed back. "I'm busy. You have until tonight to sign them. We need to negotiate. This isn't reasonable." "Nothing about this situation is reasonable, Robert. But you created it, so you get to live with it." She drove home to find Robert pacing in the living room with the divorce papers in his hand. "These terms are insane, Jasmine. You want everything." "I want back what was mine to begin with." Jasmine hung up her coat. "Everything else you already gave to Angela. I can't agree to this. I need assets for my legal defense." "Your legal defense?" Jasmine acted surprised. "Why would you need a legal defense?" Robert's face went pale. "What do you know?" "I know that the police called me this morning to ask about your financial activities. I know that your business partner discovered embezzlement. I know that the hospital is auditing all your contracts." Jasmine's smile was cold. "I know that Angela is meeting with a lawyer tomorrow to discuss her options." "Angela wouldn't." "Angela found out that you've been lying to her about everything, just like you lied to me. She's protecting herself and her children now." Robert collapsed into his chair. "This is all your fault." "My fault?" Jasmine's voice was dangerously quiet. "I forced you to cheat on me? I forced you to steal money? I forced you to commit tax fraud? You're destroying my life." "No, Robert. You destroyed your own life. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it." Jasmine picked up the divorce papers. "Sign these or don't. Either way, you're going to pay for what you've done. What if I fight you in court? What if I make this as messy as possible?" Jasmine looked at him with something that might have been pity. "Then you'll lose everything, including your freedom. Because I know where all the bodies are buried, Robert. Every lie, every theft, every fraudulent transaction. And I'm prepared to share all of it with anyone who wants to know." She walked toward the stairs, then turned back. "You have 2 hours to decide. After that, I'm calling Detective Williams and telling him exactly where to find all the evidence he needs to put you in prison." Robert stared at the divorce papers, finally understanding that he had lost everything. And it was only the beginning. Robert signed the divorce papers at 11:47 p.m. Sunday night. Jasmine found them on the kitchen table Monday morning with a note. "Gone to stay with my brother. I'll send for my things later." She photographed the signed documents and immediately emailed them to Patricia Chin. Phase 2 was complete. Her phone rang as she was getting ready for work. "Jasmine, it's Patricia. I have the signed papers." This went smoother than I expected. Robert realized he didn't have any choice. "What happens now?" "Now we file immediately and wait for the fireworks to start." Jasmine put the phone on speaker while she applied her makeup. "How long until the divorce is final?" "With an uncontested filing and no disputes over assets, probably 90 days. "Perfect. That gives me plenty of time for Phase 3. "Phase 3. Making sure Robert faces the full consequences of his actions." Jasmine's smile was reflected in her bathroom mirror. "He thinks signing those papers gets him off the hook. He's about to learn how wrong he is." At the hospital, Jasmine threw herself into work with renewed energy. For the first time in years, she felt like herself again. Clear-headed, focused, in control. During her lunch break, she had 3 meetings. The first was with Detective Williams in the hospital cafeteria. "Mrs. Johnson, thank you for agreeing to speak with us." "Of course. I want to help in any way I can." Detective Williams opened a folder. "We've received information suggesting that your husband may have been involved in tax evasion, embezzlement, and possibly money laundering. What can you tell us about his financial activities?" Jasmine spent an hour walking through everything she had discovered. The offshore accounts, the unreported income, the business expenses that were actually personal purchases, the pattern of theft from their joint accounts. "This is very helpful. Do you have documentation for any of these claims?" "All of it." Jasmine handed him a flash drive. "Bank statements, business records, property documents, credit card statements. Everything going back 7 years." Detective Williams plugged the drive into his laptop and scrolled through the files. His eyebrows went up higher with each folder he opened. "This is comprehensive. I'm very thorough, Detective. It comes with the job. We may need you to testify if this goes to court." "I'd be happy to." The second meeting was with Mike, Robert's business partner, in the hospital parking garage. "Jasmine, I'm so glad you agreed to meet with me. What did you find, Mike?" "It's worse than I thought." Mike looked exhausted. Robert has been systematically stealing from the business for at least 3 years. Client payments diverted to personal accounts, false expense reports, equipment purchases that never happened. How much? So far? About $200,000. Jasmine whistled low. What are you going to do? I've already talked to my lawyer. We're dissolving the partnership and I'm cooperating fully with the police investigation. Mike shook his head. I can't believe I trusted him. None of us could believe it. That's what made him so effective. There's something else you should know. 3 of our biggest clients have already canceled their contracts. Word is getting around about what happened at your birthday party. I'm sorry, Mike. I know this hurts your business too. Don't apologize. Robert did this, not you. Mike handed her a business card. I'm starting over with a new company. Clean slate, honest practices. If you ever need anything, call me. The third meeting was with Angela in the hospital chapel. How are you holding up? Jasmine asked. I've been better. Angela's eyes were red from crying. I met with a lawyer this morning. She says I need to prepare for the possibility that Robert will go to prison. Are you prepared for that? I don't have a choice. I have 2 kids and a baby on the way. I can't afford to go down with him. Angela wiped her eyes. The lawyer says I should cooperate with the investigation and try to distance myself from his illegal activities. That's smart advice. She also said I should apply for government assistance. Apparently, when Robert gets arrested, they'll freeze all his assets. Angela's voice was bitter. Including the house we live in, since it was purchased with stolen money. I'm sorry, Angela. Don't be. This is what I get for believing a man who was too good to be true. Angela looked at Jasmine. Can I ask you something? Of course. Are you doing all this for revenge? Jasmine thought about the question carefully. I'm doing this for justice. Robert hurt a lot of people with his lies and theft. He needs to face consequences for that. But you're also angry. I'm furious. But fury doesn't make good decisions. Planning does. Jasmine's voice was calm. Robert thought he could manipulate and betray people without consequences. I'm proving him wrong. What happens to me and the kids? You rebuild. You tell the truth. You take care of your children. And you never trust a man who tells you what you want to hear instead of what you need to know. Angela nodded. The lawyer wants me to make a full statement to the police about everything Robert told me and everything I witnessed. Will you do it? Yes. He lied to me for 7 years. He put my children at risk. He made me an accomplice to crimes I didn't even know were happening. Angela's voice was stronger now. He deserves whatever happens to him. That evening, Jasmine came home to find her sister Lisa waiting in the driveway. How did today go? Lisa asked as they walked into the house. Better than expected. The police have enough evidence to arrest Robert anytime they want. His business partner is cooperating with the investigation. Angela is ready to testify against him. Jasmine poured 2 glasses of wine. And the divorce papers are signed and filed. So it's over? The legal part is just beginning. But the hard part is over. Jasmine sat down across from her sister. Robert thought he was so smart. He thought he could play everyone and walk away clean. And now he's about to find out that actions have consequences. Jasmine's smile was satisfied. He wanted to destroy my life in public? Fine. But now his destruction is going to be just as public. What's next? We wait. The police will arrest him within the week. The IRS will freeze his accounts. His remaining clients will drop him when they see the news coverage. Jasmine took a sip of wine. And then Robert will understand what it feels like to have your entire life destroyed by someone you trusted. Lisa was quiet for a moment. Do you think you'll ever forgive him? Forgiveness is for people who are sorry for what they've done. Robert isn't sorry. He's just sorry he got caught. Jasmine looked out the window at the house that was finally, truly hers again. But forgiveness isn't the point anymore. Justice is. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Robert. I know what you're doing. It needs to stop. Jasmine showed the text to Lisa, who shook her head in amazement. He still thinks he can control this situation. Jasmine typed back. I'm not doing anything, Robert. I'm just telling the truth. If that's destroying your life, maybe you should have thought about that before you built your life on lies. The response came immediately. We can work this out. I'll pay back everything I took. We can settle this privately. Too late for private settlements. You made this public when you humiliated me at my birthday party. Now everyone gets to see who you really are. Jasmine, please. Think about Angela and the kids. They don't deserve this. Jasmine stared at the text for a long moment before responding. You should have thought about Angela and the kids before you committed crimes that would destroy their family. This is your doing, not mine. She blocked the number and turned off her phone. Is it really over? Lisa asked. Not yet. But soon. Jasmine raised her wine glass. To new beginnings. To getting even. No, Jasmine corrected. To getting justice. Getting even would have been cheating on Robert or embarrassing him at a party. This is making sure he faces the full consequences of 7 years of lies, theft, and betrayal. She smiled, and for the first time in months, it reached her eyes. Robert wanted to throw me away like garbage and start over with a clean slate. Instead, he's going to lose everything while I get my life back. That's not revenge. That's justice. And it's just getting started. The arrest happened on Wednesday morning. Jasmine was at work when Nicole called with the news. Turn on Channel 7. Robert's being led away in handcuffs. Jasmine found a television in the break room and watched as her soon-to-be ex-husband was escorted from his office building in downtown. The news reporter was explaining the charges: tax evasion, embezzlement, money laundering, and fraud. Her phone started buzzing immediately. Text from Lisa, "Are you okay?" Text from her mother, "I saw the news. Do you need me to come over?" Text from Dr. Peterson, "Take the day off if you need to." But Jasmine felt fine. Better than fine, actually. She felt vindicated. The news coverage was extensive. The story had everything the media loved: wealthy businessman, secret family, betrayed wife, financial crimes. By noon, it was the lead story on every local news station. The video from her birthday party was playing on repeat, with commentary from legal experts about the charges Robert was facing. Social media was exploding with reactions, most of them expressing sympathy for Jasmine and outrage at Robert's behavior. Her phone rang. It was Patricia Chin. "Jasmine, are you watching the news?" "Yes." "How does this affect the divorce?" "It accelerates everything. Robert's assets are being frozen, which means he can't fight our settlement even if he wanted to." Patricia sounded pleased. "You're going to get everything you asked for." "What about his legal defense?" "That's his problem now. He'll have to rely on a public defender or find someone willing to work for free." Patricia paused. "Which, given the evidence against him, won't be easy." That evening, Jasmine's house was surrounded by news vans. She stayed inside and let the reporters speculate about her reaction to her husband's arrest. She had nothing to say to them anyway. Her reaction was private satisfaction that justice was finally being served. The real entertainment came from watching Robert's social circle distance themselves from him. His golf buddies stopped returning his calls. His business associates issued statements condemning his actions. The country club quietly revoked his membership. Angela was handling the media attention differently. She had hired a public relations firm to help manage her image as another victim of Robert's deception. The PR strategy was working. She was being portrayed as a single mother who had been lied to and manipulated by a master con artist. Which, Jasmine reflected, was actually true. Friday brought more developments. Mike held a press conference announcing the dissolution of his partnership with Robert and the formation of his new company. He spoke about the importance of ethical business practices and promised that his new firm would operate with complete transparency. 3 more of Robert's clients terminated their contracts and demanded audits of all previous work. The hospital system announced they were considering legal action to recover any fraudulent charges from Robert's company. But the most interesting development came from an unexpected source. Robert's brother called Jasmine directly. "Jasmine, this is David. Robert's brother." "Hello, David. I wanted to apologize for what Robert did to you. What he did at your birthday party was unforgivable." "Thank you. I also wanted you to know that our family had no idea about any of this. The affair, the financial crimes, none of it. I didn't think you did. Robert came to stay with me after he left your house, but I asked him to leave after he was arrested. I can't have my children around someone who's facing federal charges." Jasmine was surprised by this. "Where is he staying now?" "I don't know. Angela won't let him in the house, and he can't afford a hotel since his accounts are frozen." David's voice was tired. "He's been calling everyone in the family asking for money for a lawyer. Is anyone helping him?" "No. We all feel terrible for what he put you through, and frankly, we're embarrassed to be related to him." David paused. "He destroyed his marriage, his business, and now his family relationships. All for what? I wish I knew." "Jasmine, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you think there's any chance this is all a misunderstanding? That maybe the charges will be dropped?" Jasmine was quiet for a moment. David, I've seen the evidence. Robert stole hundreds of thousands of dollars and hid millions in offshore accounts. He committed fraud, tax evasion, and embezzlement. These aren't misunderstandings. I was afraid you'd say that. I'm sorry. I know this is hard for your family too. It is. But Robert made his choices. Now he has to live with them. The weekend brought a new wave of revelations. A local newspaper ran an investigative piece about Robert's business practices, revealing a pattern of overcharging clients and providing substandard services. Former employees came forward with stories of being asked to falsify records and inflate invoices. The article painted a picture of a man who had been running scams for years, getting progressively bolder as he got away with smaller crimes. Monday morning brought the most satisfying development yet. Angela held her own press conference. Jasmine watched from her office as Angela, flanked by her lawyer and a victim's advocate, told the world about Robert's deception. She spoke about being lied to about his marital status, about discovering that their comfortable lifestyle was funded by stolen money, and about her decision to cooperate fully with law enforcement. I want other women to know that if something seems too good to be true, it probably is, Angela said to the cameras. Robert presented himself as a successful businessman who was separated from his wife and ready to start a new family. Every single part of that was a lie. The reporter asked, "What do you want people to know about Robert Johnson?" "I want them to know that he's a master manipulator who destroyed multiple families with his lies and crimes. He's not a victim. He's not someone who made mistakes. He's a criminal who hurt everyone who trusted him." Angela's lawyer stepped forward. "My client and her children are victims of Mr. Johnson's criminal enterprise. She will be seeking full custody of their children and maximum child support, assuming Mr. Johnson has any assets left after restitution." Jasmine turned off the television and smiled. Angela had learned quickly. Her phone rang. It was Detective Williams. "Mrs. Johnson, I wanted to update you on the case." "What's the latest?" "Robert's been denied bail. The judge considered him a flight risk given the offshore accounts and the possibility of additional charges." The detective sounded satisfied. "He'll be in custody until trial." "How long will that be?" "Probably 6 to 8 months. But honestly, with the evidence we have, I expect him to plead guilty long before then." "What kind of sentence is he looking at?" "Federal tax evasion and money laundering? Probably 8 to 10 years minimum." Jasmine closed her eyes. 8 to 10 years. Robert would be nearly 50 when he got out, with no business, no reputation, no assets, and probably no family. "Mrs. Johnson? Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Detective. Thank you for the update." After hanging up, Jasmine sat in her office thinking about everything that had happened in 2 weeks. Robert had gone from successful businessman with a loving wife and secret family to federal prisoner facing a decade in jail. All because he thought he could humiliate her publicly and walk away clean. Her computer chimed with an email from Patricia Chin. "Divorce finalized. All assets transferred as agreed. You're officially free." Jasmine stared at the email for a long moment. Free. After 12 years of marriage and 7 years of lies, she was finally free. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I hope you're happy. You've destroyed everything." It was Robert, somehow texting from jail. Jasmine typed back, "I didn't destroy anything, Robert. I just stopped covering for you." She blocked the number and deleted the conversation. Then she called Nicole. "Want to go celebrate tonight? I'm officially divorced." "Hell yes. Where do you want to go?" "Somewhere expensive. I can afford it now." As Jasmine left work that evening, she reflected on how completely Robert's world had collapsed. His business was gone. His reputation was destroyed. His family had disowned him. His girlfriend had turned against him. He was in federal prison awaiting trial. And all of it could have been avoided if he had simply been honest. But Robert had never been capable of honesty. He had been a liar and a manipulator from the beginning, and eventually, those lies had caught up with him. Jasmine drove home to her house, truly her house now, and felt something she hadn't experienced in years. 3 weeks after Robert's arrest, the full scope of his criminal enterprise became clear. The FBI had expanded their investigation beyond tax evasion and embezzlement. They discovered that Robert had been running what amounted to a Ponzi scheme, using money from new clients to pay debts to old ones while skimming massive amounts for his personal use. Jasmine learned about this development from Detective Williams during their weekly check-in call. "Mrs. Johnson, we've uncovered additional criminal activity. Your husband was operating a sophisticated financial fraud scheme that victimized dozens of clients." "How sophisticated?" He would bid artificially low on contracts to win business, then inflate charges and create fake expenses to justify cost overruns. When clients complained, he would offer partial refunds paid for with money stolen from other clients. Jasmine shook her head. How long had this been going on? At least 5 years. Possibly longer. Detective Williams paused. We're estimating total damages in excess of $2 million. $2 million. Jasmine's voice was sharp. How did no one notice? That's the sophisticated part. He targeted small to medium businesses that didn't have dedicated accounting departments. Companies that trusted their vendors to be honest. Like she had trusted her husband to be honest. What does this mean for the case? Additional charges. Conspiracy, wire fraud, mail fraud. We're looking at federal racketeering charges now. Detective Williams sounded grim. If convicted on all counts, he could be facing 20 to 25 years. 25 years. Robert would be in his 60s when he got out. The expanded charges made national news. Robert's case was being held up as an example of how financial criminals could hide in plain sight, appearing to be successful businessmen while systematically destroying lives. More victims came forward every day. A small restaurant that had closed after Robert's overcharges bankrupted them. A medical practice that had to lay off staff to pay his inflated invoices. A nonprofit that had to cancel programs because Robert had stolen their renovation budget. Each new story made Jasmine angrier and more determined to see justice served. But the story that broke her heart came from an unexpected source. Mrs. Patterson, the elderly woman who lived next door to Angela, called Jasmine directly. Mrs. Johnson? This is Eleanor Patterson. I live next to the house where your husband kept his other family. Hello, Mrs. Patterson. How can I help you? I wanted you to know that I've been watching those children for years and they're good kids. Sweet kids. They don't deserve what's happening to them. I agree. This isn't their fault. The thing is, I think your husband was stealing from me too. Jasmine sat up straighter. What do you mean? He convinced me to hire his company to update my electrical system last year. Said it was dangerous, that I could have a fire. He charged me $15,000 for work that should have cost $5,000. Did you get multiple estimates? He said there wasn't time, that it was an emergency. I trusted him because he was Angela's boyfriend and seemed like such a nice family man. Jasmine closed her eyes. Even their elderly neighbors hadn't been safe from Robert's schemes. Mrs. Patterson, you should call Detective Williams. Your case might be connected to the federal investigation. Do you think I'll get my money back? I don't know. But you deserve justice just like everyone else he hurt. After hanging up, Jasmine realized that Robert's victims included not just businesses and banks, but also individuals who had trusted him. Elderly people, young families, small business owners who had believed his lies and paid the price. The true scope of his betrayal was staggering. Her phone rang. It was Mike, Robert's former business partner. Jasmine, I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it. What now? The FBI asked me to go through all our business records, looking for evidence of fraud. I found something that involves you directly. Jasmine's blood ran cold. What? Remember when you co-signed the business loan 3 years ago? The one for $50,000? Yes. Robert said it was for new equipment. There was no new equipment. Robert took that money and put it directly into the offshore account. Mike's voice was heavy. He used your credit and your signature to fund his criminal activity. I co-signed a loan for money that was stolen? Technically, yes. Which means you might be liable for the loan even though you never saw any of the money. Jasmine felt sick. Even after everything, Robert was still finding ways to hurt her. What can I do? My lawyer says you should file a police report for identity theft and fraud. Document that you were deceived about the purpose of the loan and had no knowledge of the criminal activity. Will that protect me from liability? Probably. You're clearly a victim here, not a co-conspirator. But you need to act quickly to establish that you were defrauded. After filing the police report, Jasmine sat in her car outside the police station and tried to process the magnitude of Robert's crimes. He hadn't just betrayed her personally, he had used her credit and reputation to fund his criminal enterprise. For 3 years, she had been unknowingly complicit in his fraud because she had trusted him enough to co-sign a business loan. Her phone buzzed with a call from Angela. Jasmine, I just got off the phone with the FBI. They want to interview Tommy and Sarah. The children? Why? Apparently Robert used to bring them to his office sometimes, and they might have overheard conversations about hiding money or lying to clients. Angela's voice was strained. They want to know if the kids ever heard him talking about secret accounts or fake invoices. That's horrible. They're just children. I know. But the FBI says their testimony could be important for establishing the timeline of Robert's crimes. Will you let them be interviewed? I don't have a choice. If I refuse, they'll get a court order. Angela was crying now. Those kids loved Robert. They thought he was a good father. Now they're finding out he's a criminal who put their whole family at risk. I'm sorry, Angela. I know this is hard. The worst part is they're asking questions I can't answer. Tommy wants to know why Daddy is in jail. Sarah keeps asking if we're going to be okay. Angela's voice broke. I don't know what to tell them. Tell them the truth. That their father made bad choices and now he has to face the consequences. But they're so young. They don't understand why the police took him away or why we can't visit him or why their friends at school are talking about seeing him on the news. Jasmine felt a pang of sympathy for the children who were paying the price for their father's crimes. Angela, have you thought about getting them counseling? This is a lot for kids to process. I can't afford counseling. I can't afford anything. The government froze all of Robert's accounts, including the one he used to pay the kids' expenses. What about child support? From a man in federal prison? Even if he gets out eventually, he'll never be able to pay meaningful support. The restitution alone will bankrupt him for life. For the first time since this all started, Jasmine felt something other than anger or satisfaction. She felt pity. Not for Robert, he deserved everything that was happening to him. But for the children who had lost their father and their security through no fault of their own. Angela, if you need help with anything practical, finding resources, navigating the legal system, call me. Why would you help me? I was part of what he did to you. You were a victim just like me. And those children are innocent. Jasmine's voice was firm. Robert destroyed enough lives. I'm not going to let his children suffer more than they already have. Thank you. That means a lot. That evening, Jasmine called her sister to talk through her complicated feelings about everything that was happening. I thought I'd feel better when Robert got arrested, she told Lisa. I thought justice would feel more satisfying. But seeing what it's doing to those kids, knowing that elderly people like Mrs. Patterson got scammed, realizing how many lives he destroyed, it's not satisfying. It's just sad. You can feel sad about the collateral damage and still be glad that Robert is facing consequences. I know. It's just hard to celebrate when so many innocent people got hurt. Lisa was quiet for a moment. Do you regret exposing him? No. He needed to be stopped. If I hadn't acted when I did, he would have kept hurting people until someone else caught him. Jasmine looked out her window at the house that was finally, truly hers. I just wish he had been capable of being honest from the beginning. None of this had to happen. But it did happen. And now it's over. Not yet. The trial hasn't even started. But your part is over. You exposed him, protected yourself, and got justice. Everything else is just consequences playing out. Jasmine thought about that. Her part was over. She had done what she needed to do to protect herself and ensure that Robert faced consequences for his actions. The rest was just watching those consequences unfold. And they were going to keep unfolding for a very long time. The trial began 6 months later. Robert had refused a plea deal that would have given him 15 years in federal prison, insisting he could beat the charges. His court-appointed lawyer had tried to argue that Robert was a businessman who made poor decisions, not a criminal mastermind. But the evidence was overwhelming. Hundreds of fraudulent invoices, fake business expenses, unreported offshore accounts, and victim after victim testifying about how Robert had deceived them. Jasmine testified on the third day of the trial. She wore a simple navy blue suit and spoke calmly and clearly about discovering Robert's double life, his theft from their joint accounts, and his pattern of lies that had lasted their entire marriage. Mrs. Johnson, the prosecutor asked, did you have any knowledge of your husband's criminal activities? None whatsoever. I believed we were struggling financially while he was actually hiding millions of dollars in offshore accounts. How did that make you feel when you discovered the truth? Betrayed. But more than that, I felt used. He had turned me into an unwilling accomplice by using my credit and my income to fund his crimes. Robert's lawyer tried to paint Jasmine as a vindictive ex-wife seeking revenge, but the financial evidence spoke for itself. The prosecutor had documented every stolen dollar, every fraudulent transaction, every lie Robert had told. When Angela testified, she was devastating. She spoke about 7 years of believing she was in a relationship with an honest man who was separated from his wife. She described discovering that everything about their life together was built on stolen money. Did Mr. Johnson ever tell you where the money for your house came from? The prosecutor asked. He said his business was doing well and he had been saving for years to buy us a home. Did you believe him? I had no reason not to believe him. He seemed like a successful businessman. When did you learn the truth? When his wife confronted me at the birthday party. That's when I realized that everything Robert had told me was a lie. The most damaging testimony came from Robert's former employees and clients. One by one, they described how Robert had systematically defrauded them, always with a smile and a convincing story about why costs were higher than expected or why payments were delayed. Mrs. Patterson testified about the electrical work scam, her voice shaking as she described how Robert had scared her into believing her house was in danger and then charged her 3 times the fair price for unnecessary work. I trusted him because he seemed like such a devoted family man, she said. He talked about his children and how much he loved them. I thought anyone who cared so much about family must be honest. On the 5th day of the trial, Robert finally took the stand in his own defense. It was a disaster. Robert tried to claim that he had made mistakes but wasn't a criminal. He blamed his employees for fraudulent invoices. He claimed the offshore accounts were for tax planning, not evasion. He insisted that he had always planned to report the hidden income eventually. Under cross-examination, the prosecutor methodically destroyed every one of Robert's explanations. Mr. Johnson, you claimed these were mistakes, but you hid these accounts from your wife for 7 years. Was that a mistake? I was trying to protect her from complicated financial matters. By stealing from your joint accounts to fund your secret life with another woman? That's not how I would characterize it. How would you characterize stealing $40,000 from your joint account for a down payment on a house your wife didn't know about? I was investing in our future. Whose future? You were planning to divorce your wife and marry your girlfriend. Things change. Mr. Johnson, you told your wife you couldn't afford to fix your air conditioning while you were spending thousands of dollars on vacations with your other family. Was that protecting her from complicated financial matters? Robert's face was red and sweaty. You're twisting everything. I'm reading from your own bank records, Mr. Johnson. Are your bank records twisting the truth? It went on like that for hours. Every lie exposed, every deception documented, every manipulation revealed. By the time the prosecutor was finished, Robert looked like a broken man. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. The sentencing hearing was held 2 weeks later. Jasmine attended, sitting in the back of the courtroom with Angela. Despite everything that had happened between them, they had developed an unlikely friendship based on their shared experience of being betrayed by the same man. Before I impose sentence, the judge said, I want to address the defendant directly. Robert stood up, flanked by his lawyers. Mr. Johnson, I have presided over many white-collar crime cases in my career, but rarely have I seen such calculated and extensive deception. You didn't just steal money, you stole trust, security, and peace of mind from dozens of victims. The judge looked down at Robert with obvious disgust. You betrayed your wife, who worked to support you while you built your criminal enterprise. You deceived Ms. Morrison, who believed she was in love with an honest man. You defrauded elderly clients who trusted you with their life savings. You turned your own business into a criminal organization. Robert stood silently, staring at the floor. Most disturbing of all, you showed no remorse throughout this process. Even during trial, you continued to lie and blame others for your choices. You have demonstrated that you are incapable of taking responsibility for your actions. The judge paused and looked at his notes. The prosecution has asked for the maximum sentence under federal guidelines. The defense has asked for leniency based on your lack of prior criminal history. But your lack of prior convictions doesn't negate the scope and duration of your crimes. Jasmine held her breath. I hereby sentence you to 22 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised probation. You will pay full restitution to all victims, and all assets connected to your criminal enterprise will be forfeited to the government. 22 years. Robert would be in his 60s when he got out, assuming he lived that long. Angela started crying quietly beside Jasmine. Not from sadness but from relief that it was finally over. As the bailiffs led Robert away in shackles, he turned and looked directly at Jasmine for the first time since the trial began. His expression wasn't apologetic or remorseful. It was pure hatred. Even now, facing decades in prison, Robert blamed her for his downfall instead of taking responsibility for his choices. Jasmine met his gaze steadily and felt nothing but pity for a man who had destroyed so many lives and still couldn't understand that he had brought it all on himself. After the sentencing, Jasmine and Angela walked out of the courthouse together. How do you feel? Angela asked. Relieved. You. Free. For the first time in months I feel free. They stood on the courthouse steps, watching the news crews report on Robert's sentencing. The story was already spreading 22 years for the businessman who had introduced his secret family at his wife's birthday party. What will you do now? Jasmine asked. Start over. Find a job, get the kids settled in a new school, build a life that's not based on lies. Angela looked at Jasmine. What about you? The same, I think. Start over. They walked to their cars in comfortable silence. As Jasmine drove home, she reflected on everything that had happened in the year since her birthday party. Robert had thought he could humiliate her publicly and walk away clean. Instead, he had exposed himself as a criminal and destroyed his own life. Justice had been served, but it felt different than she had expected. Not triumphant or satisfying, just complete. Her phone rang as she pulled into her driveway. It was Detective Williams. Mrs. Johnson, I wanted to call and thank you for your cooperation throughout this investigation. Of course. I'm glad we got him. Your documentation and testimony were crucial to securing the conviction. Without your evidence, Robert might have gotten away with it. I'm glad I could help. There's one more thing. The judge has ordered Robert to pay full restitution to all victims. Given the forfeiture of his assets and the money we recovered from the offshore accounts, most victims should get back at least 80% of what they lost. That's good news. It is. Your ex-husband will spend the next 2 decades in prison, but at least his victims will get some measure of justice. After hanging up, Jasmine sat in her car looking at the house that had been her refuge throughout this ordeal. The house that was truly hers now, free and clear of any claims from Robert. She was 41 years old, divorced and starting over. But for the first time in years she was starting over as herself, not as Robert's wife, not as someone covering for his lies, not as someone making excuses for his failures. Just herself. And that felt like victory enough. 1 year after the trial, Jasmine's life looked completely different. She had been promoted to head nurse in the emergency department, a position that came with both more responsibility and significantly higher pay. Her colleagues respected her not just for her professional skills, but for the grace and strength she had shown during the most difficult period of her life. The house was truly hers now, renovated and redecorated to reflect her own taste rather than compromising with Robert's preferences. She had finally fixed the leaky roof and upgraded the air conditioning, improvements Robert had claimed they couldn't afford while he was spending money on his secret family. On a Saturday morning in spring, Jasmine was working in her garden when her neighbor called over the fence. Jasmine, there's someone here to see you. She looked up to see a man walking across her lawn, and her heart skipped a beat. He was tall, with silver hair and kind eyes, wearing jeans and a button-down shirt that suggested he was comfortable without being careless about his appearance. Miss Johnson? I'm David Martinez. I work with the Victims Assistance Program at the FBI. Oh. Jasmine pulled off her gardening gloves. Is there a problem with the case? No, nothing like that. I actually wanted to thank you personally for your cooperation during the investigation. It was the right thing to do. It was more than that. Your documentation and testimony were instrumental in securing justice for dozens of victims. David smiled, and Jasmine noticed he had a nice smile. I've worked hundreds of financial crime cases, and I've never seen a victim who was so organized and thorough in gathering evidence. I'm a trauma nurse. Organization and attention to detail are part of the job. Well, your skills helped put a very dangerous man in prison for a very long time. They talked for a few more minutes about the case and the impact on the victims. David explained that most of the restitution had been distributed and that several victims had written letters thanking Jasmine for her role in exposing Robert's crimes. As he was preparing to leave, David hesitated. Miss Johnson, this is completely unprofessional, but would you be interested in having coffee sometime? Not related to the case, just coffee. Jasmine looked at this kind, honest man who had spent his career helping victims of financial crimes. I'd like that. They met for coffee the following Saturday, and Jasmine found herself laughing for the first time in years. David was intelligent, funny, and refreshingly straightforward. He told her about his work, his 2 grown children, and his recent divorce from a woman who had decided she preferred the company of her yoga instructor. I'm probably not ready for anything serious, Jasmine told him honestly. I'm still figuring out who I am without being defined by someone else's lies. That's fair. I'm still figuring out who I am without being married to someone who thinks downward dog is a lifestyle choice. Jasmine laughed so hard she nearly choked on her coffee. They began seeing each other regularly, taking things slowly and building a friendship based on mutual respect and honesty. David never tried to rush her or pressure her into anything she wasn't ready for. He seemed to understand that trust, once broken so completely, took time to rebuild. 6 months later, Angela called with unexpected news. "Jasmine, I wanted you to hear this from me first. I'm getting married." "That's wonderful. Who is he?" "His name is Marcus. He's a teacher at Tommy's school. He's kind, honest, and the kids love him." Angela's voice was happy in a way Jasmine had never heard before. "He knows everything about Robert and the trial, and he doesn't care. He says what matters is who we are now, not what happened to us." "I'm so happy for you, Angela. The thing is, he wants to adopt the kids. Give them his name and a fresh start." Angela paused. "But that means cutting all legal ties to Robert. How do you feel about that?" "Relieved. Robert has never been a real father to them anyway, even before he went to prison. They barely remember him now, and Marcus has been more of a dad to them in 6 months than Robert was in their whole lives." "Then it sounds like the right choice." "It is. We're all finally free of Robert and everything he represents." A few weeks later, Jasmine received a letter that surprised her. It was from Robert, writing from federal prison. "Jasmine," it began, "I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to say some things. I've had a lot of time to think about what I did and how it affected everyone. I know you'll probably never forgive me, and I understand why. I lied to you for our entire marriage. I stole from you, betrayed you, and humiliated you in the worst possible way. I turned you into an accomplice to crimes you didn't know were happening. I destroyed your trust and your sense of security. What I did to you was unforgivable." Jasmine read the letter twice, looking for the manipulation or self-pity she expected, but found none. The letter continued, "I also lied to Angela and put her and her children at risk. I lied to my clients and stole their money. I hurt elderly people who trusted me. I destroyed my business partner's livelihood. I committed crimes that hurt dozens of innocent people. I have no excuses for any of it. I was selfish, dishonest, and cruel. I chose to build my life on lies because it was easier than dealing with the truth. Every day I made the choice to keep lying, and every day I hurt more people. I'm not writing this because I expect forgiveness or because I want sympathy. I'm writing because you deserve to know that I finally understand what I did. You didn't destroy my life, Jasmine. I destroyed my own life, and I destroyed the lives of everyone who trusted me. You just made sure I faced consequences for it. That took courage, and I respect you for it. I hope you find happiness with someone who deserves you. I hope Angela and the kids find peace. I hope all my victims recover from what I did to them. And I hope someday I can do something to make up for even a small part of the damage I caused. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but it's all I have. Robert." Jasmine folded the letter and put it in her desk drawer. It might have been another manipulation, another lie designed to make her feel sorry for him. But something about the tone suggested it was genuine. Not that it mattered. Apologies didn't undo damage. They didn't restore stolen money or rebuild shattered trust. They didn't give back the years she had wasted believing his lies. But maybe they were a start toward something resembling accountability. A year later, David proposed during a quiet dinner at home. He didn't get down on one knee or make a grand gesture. He simply said, "I love you, Jasmine. I love your strength, your intelligence, your kindness, and your ability to see the truth even when it hurts. I want to spend the rest of my life earning your trust every single day. Will you marry me?" Jasmine looked at this good, honest man who had never lied to her, never manipulated her, never tried to be anything other than exactly who he was. "Yes," she said. "But I need you to understand something. I will never again be the kind of wife who doesn't ask questions or who covers for her husband's mistakes. I will never again ignore red flags or make excuses for behavior that doesn't make sense." "I wouldn't want you to be," David said. "I fell in love with a woman who has the courage to face the truth and fight for justice. I don't want you to change." They were married 6 months later in a small ceremony in Jasmine's backyard. Angela came with her new husband and the children, who barely remembered their biological father and called Marcus Dad now. Lisa was the maid of honor, and David's children flew in from college to celebrate with them. It was everything Jasmine's first wedding hadn't been: honest, joyful, and built on a foundation of truth and mutual respect. During her wedding reception, Jasmine stepped outside for a moment of quiet reflection. Lisa found her on the patio looking up at the stars. "Any regrets?" Lisa asked. "About the wedding?" "None." "About Robert?" "About everything that happened." Jasmine thought about it. "I regret that he hurt so many people. I regret that his children had to suffer for his crimes. I regret that it took me so long to see who he really was. But I don't regret fighting back. I don't regret making sure he faced consequences. And I don't regret the person I became because of it. Who did you become? Someone who won't settle for lies. Someone who won't cover for other people's bad behavior. Someone who knows her own worth and won't accept less than she deserves. Jasmine looked through the window at her new husband, who was talking with her colleagues from the hospital and making them laugh. I spent 12 years trying to be the perfect wife for someone who was incapable of being a decent husband. Now I get to be myself with someone who loves exactly who I am. That's not revenge, Lisa observed. That's redemption. Maybe they're the same thing sometimes. Maybe the best revenge is building a life so good that you're grateful the person who hurt you is no longer part of it. 3 years later, Jasmine received a call from the parole board. Robert was applying for early release after serving only 8 years of his 22-year sentence. Mrs. Johnson, as a victim, you have the right to make a statement to the parole board regarding the defendant's application. Will he be released? That depends on many factors, including victim impact statements, his behavior in prison, and evidence of rehabilitation. Jasmine thought about it for exactly 30 seconds. I'll be there. On the day of the parole hearing, Jasmine sat in the front row of the hearing room wearing a simple black suit. Robert was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit, looking older and thinner than she remembered. When it was her turn to speak, Jasmine stood and faced the parole board. Robert Johnson stole 8 years of my life with his lies. He stole money from dozens of victims. He destroyed trust, security, and peace of mind for everyone who believed in him. 8 years in prison is not enough for 22 years of systematic deception and fraud. Robert has served less than half his sentence for crimes that destroyed multiple lives. Releasing him early would send the message that financial crimes don't have serious consequences. I ask you to deny his application and require him to serve his full sentence. The parole board denied Robert's application. He would serve at least another 6 years before being eligible again. As Jasmine left the hearing, she felt the final chapter of her old life closing. Robert was the past. David and their life together were the future. That evening she and David celebrated their 3rd wedding anniversary with dinner at the restaurant where they had their first date. As they walked home through their neighborhood, Jasmine reflected on how completely her life had changed. She was 47 now, successful in her career, happily married to a man who respected and valued her, and surrounded by friends who saw her as she truly was, not as someone's wife or victim. Do you ever think about him? David asked, seeming to read her thoughts. Sometimes. But not with anger anymore. More like curiosity about how someone could be so determined to destroy their own life. Any conclusions? Just that some people are so afraid of being honest that they'd rather lose everything than face the truth about themselves. They walked home to the house that had been Jasmine's refuge during the worst period of her life and was now the foundation of her happiness. In the end, Robert's attempt to throw her away like garbage had backfired completely. He had lost everything, his freedom, his family, his reputation, his future, while she had gained everything that truly mattered. The best revenge, it turned out, was simply being happy. And Jasmine was very, very happy.